Hello, and welcome to So You Think You Can Rule Persia, the podcast where we rate and review all the kings of Persia from Diocles to Yazdegerd III. I'm Sariel, and my pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Umberto, and my pronouns are he, him. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 90, Azarmidokht, our second woman that we've covered in this podcast. Are you excited, Sariel?
I am so interested to see what will happen. I mean, anytime we have a woman in the podcast, I'm like, oh, at last. And it's, of course, always
the one other time we've had one.
Yeah, due to the wildest situations. So, I mean, I don't have higher hopes just because everything is on fire at the moment.
Correct, yes.
So, like, you know, we have to be realistic about the situation. But I am really interested in knowing why exactly we are putting her in the podcast, what she did. Can't wait to hear all of the wild accusations that are gonna appear against her because, like, you know, how dare she?
Of course, yes. How dare she be a woman?
Just, I'm very curious to know how this came to be and what happened. Yeah, let's do it.
That'll be some good stuff. But before we just jump into Azarmidokht, well, what do you remember from the last episode, Shapur V? Do you have any strong, lingering aftertastes?
It was just not good. I mean, obviously.
No, it was not.
Like, there weren't many strong decisions made at all, right? It was just, I have this now, and wait. I drew something particular.
Yes, you did.
Which I enjoyed. Right. Yeah, essentially, he barely got the crown, and everyone else wanted the crown, and he just, like, barely got to do anything on his own right?
Yep. To give a very brief summary of what happened with Shapur V, it was all just falling apart. Like, the empire split into 5 pieces, and it's broken apart, and then he was overthrown in just a few months.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was all he could do.
I was like, am I just not remembering, or is there just nothing to remember?
No, there's just nothing to remember, Sariel. It's just a very sad time, because now not only do we have a crisis of legitimacy in the core of the empire, but several bits of the empire are just leaving and falling apart. I mean, by leaving, it doesn't mean that they've accepted to split the empire. I think everybody is still trying to preserve the unity of it, but nobody is really strong enough to do that right now. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have recorded this previous episode not that long ago, so I was worried for a minute that I had already forgotten everything. But, yeah, there's just not much.
That's it, yeah. So, alright, let's get started with Azarmidokht. So, who is she? Well, she is a woman. She is the first woman we've covered since the 1,000 years that have passed between us and Musa. So, yes, to be fair, her sister Boran is actually the second woman, but we're covering Boran after Azarmidokht, so
I see.
There we go. That's just the way we've decided to structure
Listen, things are complicated. Like, the thing with history is that sometimes everything happens at once. It's
that
not just
true. This is one of those
distinctive...
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, so Azarmidokht, why is she legitimate, Sariel? Can you guess? How have we gotten to the point where a woman's on the throne?
Well, usually it's either because they're a regent for an heir, or because they are the wife and there's no one else who takes the throne in the meantime. So they're just, like, the more qualified. Or I'd like to think one of the reasons could be that they have military support, you know, because if you have support, you can do whatever.
Well, Sarah, she does have some military support, which is a sign. We'll talk about it later. But her main legitimacy, the reason why she was chosen instead of anyone else, is that she is the daughter of Khosrow II and his favorite wife, Shirin. Remember the one who killed herself rather than submit to Kavad II?
Yes.
Her, yes. This is her daughter.
Yeah, so she derives legitimacy for like a bit further back, which is a more legitimate line than whatever the hell was going on in the meantime.
Yeah, that's right.
But like, sure, that's fair, but that's not caused other women to be emperors before.
Well, Sarah, we hadn't run through so many child emperors or random usurpers at that point.
They were like,
we're
well,
now really
at least
getting
she's an
desperate. We're
adult.
saying, yeah, it's like, it's either the fourth child in a row, or it's just like this woman who is an adult. Sure, whatever, I guess. Fine. You know, I guess someone can marry you and that'll give them legitimacy. Sounds great. But yeah, she was probably born sometime in the early part of Khosrow's reign when everything was going really well, making her in her 30s at this point, roughly, when she takes the throne. So unclear exactly what the age is, but that's the broad ballpark you should imagine. Even her name refers to her father, because Azarmidokht, as you could imagine, Dokht means daughter, because Indo-European languages, hooray. And her name, Azarmidokht, means daughter of the respected one. So she's clearly just really pointing towards Khosrow and saying, look at him, weren't things good back then? Why did we all have to kill him at that point and plunge the empire into chaos? Why? What are we doing? So she was absent from the story for quite a bit. We haven't heard of her before. But she comes into the story after the overthrow of Shapur V, when the court in Ctesiphon was looking for a more legitimate ruler with some Sassanid connections. And, well, since there were no men for the position, and there were either those people that claim they survived the purge and made their own little kingdoms at the edge of the empire, or it's grandchildren of the sons of Khosrow, which, again, children with little legitimacy, what is the point? Khosrow had adult daughters, so fine, let's go for Azarmidokht, she'd be fine. Chief among her supporters was the commander of the northern armies, a man called Farrukh Hormizd, who was a son of Bendoy, of the Ispabadan family. Remember, the uncles of Khosrow who had tried to usurp him a while ago. Same family. And if you remember, Farrukh Hormizd is also one of the men who killed, or according to sources, the man who killed Shahbaraz during that parade. So this guy is powerful enough and in control enough that he manages to sponsor Azarmidokht as Queen of Queens and decides, you know what, yeah, she's just a woman, I'll be the regent, I control the army that supports her, so what's she gonna do? Although, to be fair, it is worth noting that Azarmidokht is said to have ruled with justice and didn't choose a first minister, so that only she would rule and make decisions.
That's smart.
So he can make threats or recommendations, but he doesn't have any official position besides
in the end, she has the last
the
word.
remaining army.
Yeah.
That's right, yes. He can't act without her, essentially. According to Al-Tabari, Azarmidokht said, "Our conduct will be that of our father Khosrow, the victorious one, and if anyone rebels against us, we will shed his blood."
Yippee. That's clear.
Yeah.
That's pretty clear.
Now, Sarah, she needed to mint some new coins to tell everybody, hey, look, there's somebody new in charge.
Yeah.
What kind of iconography do you think she went for with her coins? You're Azarmidokht, you're the daughter of the last good king. What sort of iconography would you use to tell everybody, no, side with me?
Well, if this last king was actually liked, then I would probably take his crown. Is she going to appear as a typical iconography of a king? Like, is she going to give herself a beard, for example? And things like that?
Well, you got both of them correct, Sarah.
Yeah, I don't know why. I was like, I feel like this is what she would do to get people to just side with her.
Yeah. So she absolutely wears the crown of Khosrow II, saying, hey, everybody, remember the good old days. He was my father. That's why I'm legitimate. That's why I'm in charge. And she has several sets of coins. At the start of her reign, she is displayed with a beard and everything, like a typical Sassanid king, because trust us, everything is fine. Please, nobody panic.
Yeah, because that's the iconography of a king, so.
Yeah, very much so. And only later does she eventually have portraits of herself beardless on these coins, but still wearing Khosrow's crown. This is after a few months that things have calm down a little bit. And so she says, okay,
Yeah.
let's show people
That
who
makes
their
sense.
ruler is and go there.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of this Egyptian pharaoh
Yes.
who also is depicted oftentimes with a beard, even though she was most likely assigned female at birth, but still used all of the male iconography. And it's just like, yeah.
I think that's
you know?
Hatshepsut, which,
Yes.
yeah, which is essentially
pretty
just
sure.
showing people, no, trust me, I'm just like a man. It's okay.
Yep. I am always in favor of some gender so.
Yeah, exactly. Always fun stuff. And yeah, to be fair, some scholars mention that the bearded portraits of Azarmidokht are actually referring to sort of her puppet master, Farouk, but...
The regent? Well...
Yeah, the not officially regent, but regent.
I guess? But then he would have to be... Like, why would he give up that legitimacy to her? Like, that feels to me much more official if he gets to be in with the crown.
Yes, he's definitely trying to add the crown's legitimacy to himself, but whether Azarmidokht would have let him or not, well, that's a different...
Yeah, curious.
We also see that Azarmidokht is trying to adopt the royal iconography, the royal male iconography, in her wearing red, blue, and green garments, where red was the color of royalty, and specifically of a ruler in their own right. Incidentally, this color red is one that her sister Boran had excluded from official portraits, saying, no, that's a step too far. It's not my position to wear this color. But Azarmidokht is saying, no. If I'm going to be ruling the empire, I might as well look the part. Because otherwise people won't respect me, and we need respect right now. Otherwise the empire will be destroyed at last.
Yeah, that sounds fair.
And all this came to a head when Farouk decided on an ambitious strategy to tie himself as close as possible to the crown. What do you think he did, or proposed at least?
Is he going to marry the queen?
He's going to ask Azarmidokht's hand in marriage, so that he will be king, and with my armies and your legitimacy, together we can reorganize the empire.
Together we will rule the world!
Rule this galaxy as husband and wife. Yes. It's also possible, according to some sources, that Farouk had made himself one of those regional kings beforehand and was hoping to extend his control to all the empire by marrying Azarmidokht and making sure that everything was stable.
Yeah.
This marriage would also heal the rift between the great Parthian noble families and the Persian royal family, because, we've seen that sort of the social contract has broken down, and that random nobles like Shahbaraz and Shapur V are deciding to make themselves kings because they can.
Yeah.
And, well, if we combine the fact that we have the strength of the Parthian noble families with the legitimacy of the Persian royal family, together, they'll be able to deal with their weaknesses and rule for a long and stable time.
Sure.
So, how do you think Azarmidokht reacted to this proposal? Do you think she was welcoming of it? She was threatened? She was happy, unhappy?
I guess it depends how she felt towards this guy. Not in, in a romantic sense, but is he an annoying parasite trying to leech off of her legitimacy? Or does she recognize him as, an actual helpful ally, Because, like you said, it does make sense that this would be a good proposal. Because it would essentially aid in solidifying both of their legitimacies and someone who should be on the throne without an immediate opposing force.
Right.
It sounds to me like a good proposal because if it works the way that he says it's going to work, then it would probably deter other people from trying to take the throne, or it would incentivize that most people do support this arrangement, and we could finally stop changing rulers.
Yes, that would be nice.
Which, would be good. On the other hand, if she's like, you're just trying to control me and I want to have the power here because I want to be the one who's ruling, and you just want to be off and get rid of me as soon as possible, then probably not. Yeah,
you will remember that she did not give him an official position before this. He was not given the position of prime
Yeah,
minister or anything.
Exactly. He's being kept at an arm's length on
Yes.
purpose. So.
And well, Azarmidokht isn't too keen on this marriage proposal because she thinks it beneath her dignity and that it will end up with her just being sidelined and lose control of the kingdom that her father fought so hard for.
And probably she's not wrong.
Fair enough. It's also quite insulting to her that Fuad Cormiz didn't ask her for her hand in marriage. He asked the previous king, Shapur V, for her hand in marriage.
Oh, I see.
And Shapur said, yeah, sure, whatever. To which Azarmidokht was absolutely furious and told him, "Oh, cousin, would you marry me to my slave? Because he may be the head of a great family, but he is not a fit husband for a queen." So Azarmidokht has said that she is not very keen on marrying Fuad Cormiz because he is beneath her. What are we going to do? But Serial, he controls an army, and he is powerful. So how can she refuse his proposal without getting murdered?
Does she murdered him first?
Got it in one, Serial.
Yep. At this point, I feel like I have a good understanding
Good
of how these people
That's
work.
That's nice. That's great. That's great. Because, according to Atabari, she said, "Marriage to a queen is not permissible. I realize full well that your intention in what you are proposing is to satisfy your own needs and lust with me." So she invited him to an illicit affair one night. So she invites him to her chambers in the evening, and he is hoping that this will be the start of at least his control, and maybe he can have a child that would be half Sassanid, half noble. That'd be good. But when he shows up, he finds himself suddenly alone with the queen, and the captain of the guard storms in, kills him.
Wow.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. Which I don't know if it was the best solution, because I do think this could have been a good marriage.
Could have been helpful, yeah.
But I do think she would have gotten immediately deleted from the overall ruling picture. Like, she is correct.
Yeah.
Politically, though, I don't know if this will just lead to more instability.
It might. We'll see how that turns out.
She does not have an easy hand, though, so...
No, absolutely not. She's just doing the best with what
Yep.
she's been given, which is not much.
Yep.
Also, this sort of seduction story might be in contrast with her sister Boran, who was portrayed as a pious and chaste woman.
I see.
So it might just be like, this is the seductive sister and this is the chaste sister.
Yeah.
This is how you tell them apart.
Normal things, you know.
Very much. There's also an alternative version where Fuad Cormiz made himself king as Hormizd V.
Mm-hmm.
You remember I mentioned that he may have already been a regional ruler before.
True.
And then members of the Mihran family, in particular the grandson of Bahram Chobin, took political control of Azarmidokht and then helped her kill Fuad Cormiz before he could take the throne properly. But well, Sario, as you mentioned, this is not the most stable of times, and the problem is that Fuad Cormiz had a son called Rostam, and he is with the army of the north.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not great.
Yeah.
So Rostam himself decided to take revenge for his father's murder and march upon the capital of Ctesiphon with the other remaining army of the empire. There's the remains of Shahbaraz's army just milling around, and this is the only other army that's been sort of kept aloof. Incidentally, nobody's watching for nomads right now. We've had all armies looking inwards, so fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Rostam managed to take his army and capture the city of Ctesiphon quite handily, dethroning Azarmidokht and having her blinded. And we're not quite sure what happened to her later on, but she doesn't reappear in history, so maybe she died as a consequence of her blinding, or just in the general turmoil of this period.
That's odd.
Although many of our sources do refer to her eventually being murdered, so that might be a clean end. But yeah.
I did not expect this, muddy end.
Yes, it's very mysterious. And in the end, Rostam decides to appoint her sister, Boran, who was still alive and still hanging around from her previous reign, as the new queen, and this time do it right.
Amazing.
So we'll see how that turns out.
I love that.
And if everything is clean. So yes, Ariel, thoughts about Azarmidokht?
That's really odd. I mean, I think she's really badass, and she clearly knew what she wanted, and she was like, I will
Yeah, definitely.
get what I want. and I will not let men get in my way. Which, we love girl boss queen, but especially impressive to have done this during this period, because I would have expected her to immediately get deposed or die.
No, she lasts for a while.
And I assume she didn't last super long, but we had this guy who got killed by his own guard because he had zero skills
better than Shabraz, who died
insight.
after 30 days. Yeah. Yes.
Just bad judge of character. Clearly, I'm so intrigued and so confused at all of this.
Yeah, she's an interesting person because she really tries to stand up for herself in this time and doesn't accept, I will take a subservient role, but I will marry this guy for stability. She decides that if we're going to just give in to the nobles, then what's the point?
Which, if it had been a male king who had made that decision, it would have made perfect sense.
Yeah.
So, she's got a point. Because you could argue, if she had taken the marriage, maybe it would have been more stable. But, maybe it wouldn't have, and it would have still been sort of illegitimate if we were making that argument.
Yeah, we should also keep in mind that the nobles are still fighting with each other.
Yeah.
So choosing one noble family over another one might have just caused a worse fracturing of the empire.
And had we decided already that the nobles shouldn't reign? Even the nobles had decided that the nobles shouldn't reign. So...
I mean, they're sort of going back on that plan now.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, that has been the traditional view, is that, no noble should reign, just the royal family.
Yeah, that's very impressive. Truly terrible times to have anything to do with government, but...
Oh, absolutely.
Now, she is straight up trying to start a matriarchal line, which, incredible.
Yeah, trying to start a feminine line. And hey, her sister is now succeeding.
Yeah.
Will the second girl boss succeed?
Well, I don't know much about her other than the publicity. It seems to be idolizing her more over her sister. So I wonder if she's going to be more successful.
Mm-hmm. We can see she's definitely shown as more virtuous, and we'll have to see how Boran does, but she's already been overthrown once and come back, so let's see if she's learned useful lessons from her first reign.
Right, because when was she in charge?
She was between Shabraz and Shapur V.
Yeah.
We sort of skip that bit because times.
I see.
But yeah.
Was she reigning as a regent or as a queen?
No, she was reigning in her own right.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
But as we saw in today's episode, she didn't really have the full attributes of kingship. She was still sort of keeping it veiled as am I a regent, am I queen? No, you decide.
I am the only qualified person to make these decisions, so
exactly.
I'll work until we figure out what is what. Interesting. Yeah, I love these episodes because they're obviously, transgressive in a way. And of course, I have a very feministically biased opinion, right? But I think it is fascinating that this comes to pass after so many years of very misogynistic patriarchal ruling. I'm sure it was quite interesting at the times. So
yeah, definitely something different coming out of a period of turmoil.
Yes. Let's rate her.
All right, let's go. Our first category is final moments. How interesting was her death? She was blinded and eventually either murdered or just died of her wounds. Because being blinded is not fun.
Mm-hmm. Who did this to her?
It was the son of Farouk who tried to marry her.
Oh, I see.
So it is kind of a consequence of her own actions.
Yeah.
From a certain point of view, but yeah.
Well, still.
I think you want to add that extra personal touch.
We're not gonna victim blame here. She's
no,
free to say no and not get, blinded for it.
No, that's fine. It's just...
Especially being queen.
Yeah. Her decisions.
Did anything happen to the people who did this to her?
We'll find out, Serial.
Clearly.
Next episode. We'll see what Boran does with the people who murdered / blinded her sister. It's are you sure you want me
I invoke the spirit of Parisatis.
Just murder everyone.
Goddess of revenge.
Ashrooms, poison, whatever. It'll be fine.
No, but... So it was the son of the aspiring king.
Yeah, the wannabe king, yes.
That's wild. I guess because she took his chance to be the heir.
Yeah, pretty much. And she's like, okay, well, fine, then I'll take over and I'll be king for a while.
Well, that doesn't happen, so I'm curious to see how that goes. Because I'm sure that was the plan of, if you are not going to make me king, I will make myself king.
Yeah, I mean,
Now
he's
that my
marched
father
an
is
army
gone.
into the capital.
Yeah.
He could.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah, they
he
have
wants
the
to
military
put a fig leaf
power.
over it so it looks nice.
Interesting.
So how would you rate this death? We have the blinding detail, which is pretty gruesome, and we have the fact that it is close to home as a murder.
Yeah, I was going to say, it is an interesting death. It's a bit of a shame that it's a bit, like, muddy and unclear.
Yeah, we don't know for sure. Different sources just either stop.
Like, we know that
or
she
just say,
sustained
she was
these
dead
injuries, and then she dies sometime after. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Not sure if they're related, if not, yeah.
I'm thinking sort of like on the lines of a 3. That's my starting position.
I think I'm gonna go up to a 4 because I like the story of this child who feels like he has been robbed of his chance at ruling. That's the reason why he attacks her.
It is quite good, yeah.
And it is because she refused to marry his father and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good story. Like,
Okay.
we don't have that many details. It's not one of the more spectacular deaths. But I do like that the details we do have are like, oh, this is a very passionate and rageful, is that a word?
Wrathful?
Wrathful crime, yes. I was trying to remember what the 7th sin is called, and I couldn't.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's quite good. I think I'll stick with my 3 because I wouldn't call it her bit of the story, but I agree with your points. So with a 3 and a 4, she gets a 3.5 out of 10 for final moments. Our next category is battle hardness. How good was she at war and fighting? Here, she doesn't really personally fight or do anything of the sort. She is mostly, I don't know how much you want to consider the sort of political fighting of having Photokormizd murdered instead of marrying her. Or if you just want to look at, just if we're looking at pure battlefield stuff, then, well,
I think we have to look at pure battlefield stuff. Because that would be more scheminess in a way, or like, in a more personal, keeping her own power sort of decision.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, in that case, then I think it's just she's not really engaging in military. The only military action she sees is the fall of Ctesiphon, and there she just loses because she doesn't really have an army to control. Yeah. So, I'm thinking 0 and 0.
Yep. Not her most.
So with a 0 and a 0, she gets a 0 out of 20 for battle hardness. Our next category is scheminess. How good is she at plots and manipulations?
Good enough to be queen in an empire where that's not a thing. So...
Yeah, exactly. She manages to, first of all, somehow convince Photokormizd to make her queen.
Mm-hmm.
It depends how much agency you want to give her in the aftermath of Shapur V's deposition. Mm-hmm. Or if you want to say, oh, no, the nobles just picked somebody and Photokormizd just chose her, maybe also because you want to marry her in the first place, because that would have been easier as a sort of regent.
Oh, like, I completely understand the plan of Photokormizd. Like... Yeah. I just think it backfired. He chose the wrong woman.
Oh, definitely. So there's that bit of scheminess of maybe how much you consider her to have come to the throne of her own right. Then there is the whole thing of tricking Photokormizd into getting killed, saying, no, trust me, I'll seduce you. Come to my room at this time of night, and then stab.
Yeah.
Which is a great scene. I love it. But otherwise... Oh, also, as scheminess, you could put a little bit of... I don't know if you want to consider scheminess, but the fact that she depicts herself with a beard and with her father's crown in her first coins. I don't know if you want to add that in.
I don't know. I guess it could go into scheminess. It's less of a scheme and more of a common sense of, like, we don't want everyone to freak out by this new change when everything else is on fire. So, like, to ease...
She's sort of manipulating public opinion in a way.
Yeah, but it's the same thing as, like, this other king not minting coins of child king. So people wouldn't know that the actual king was, like, 7.
That's always the thing you want
to
know. Yeah. Fair.
Isn't that the same thing? Like, he also... Not only coins, but also,
it is a similar vibe.
basically made it known that this king, or like tried to cover up the fact that it was a very young king.
Just omitted
Yeah.
whenever it was necessary that, oh, no, trust me, Ardashir III is totally capable of ruling. It's okay.
Yeah. So,
yeah. But to be fair, we didn't actually rate that guy because he was the regent, so.
I know. But I'm just saying it's sort of the same strategy.
Yeah. No, of course.
So, yeah, I would put that into scheminess, but not particularly because it is...
No, not massive points, but...
Yeah, not because it is like trickery, it's more because it's just a good strategy.
Yeah. So yeah, I think scheminess I'm going to go for... It's not super high, it's not... So, I want to give her 2 points for the murder and 1 point for the coinage.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if to give her a 4 for the becoming queen in the first place. I don't know if it's worth giving her that extra point.
I don't know how much she had to do with it.
We
but
don't know.
You know, like it could go either way.
I feel like I'm going to give her the point because seeing how strong-willed she is during her reign, I feel like she had something to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, she
I
wasn't
don't
just
know,
like
but
hanging out
as a
in
vibe,
the room and
it
then
feels
got
like it.
pointed at Claudio style and was like, you rule now. Like, for sure.
You know, we don't know. She may have made promises to Farouk Hormuz saying, no, trust me, I'll totally marry you once I'm queen. Just put me on the throne.
Yes.
And we just don't know. But I think I have enough of a vibe off of her that I'll give her a 4.
Yeah, and if we don't give it to her, like, then what's the point of this? So I will also go with a 4. I think it's a good reasoning.
Brilliant. So with a 4 and a 4, she gets an 8 out of 20 for scheminess. Our next category is shock factor. How shocking was this woman? Well, A, she's a woman.
Yeah. Immediate points.
Yeah. She kind of rules in her own right without appointing a prime minister. She says, no,
Yep.
I'm going to take care of this myself.
Which is also shocking.
She kills the man who had given her
Proposed to
control,
her, yeah.
who had given her an army, and proposed to her, so that's pretty intense.
The army part really is a loss. But see,
Yeah,
I understand.
That's unfortunate.
Because
but,
it would probably have cost her influence and her power.
Yeah, exactly. She would have just been set aside as, oh, now you're the wife of this guy.
Like, absolutely.
Leave the room, the adults are talking, sort of thing. So, that's definitely shocking. And then, yeah, I think those are the main things. Because, I mean, also shocking. It's not very shocking in this time period, but she comes to the throne. She's not exactly a usurper, but she is taking over from somebody who didn't hand over power willingly, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's reasonably shocking. Not the highest scores ever, but a good enough level. So I'm thinking how much? I'd say a couple points for the being a woman. 1 point for the usurpation. 1 point for killing Farouk Hormizd.
Yes.
And do we go up to a 5? 4, 5?
I would give her another point for appointing her sister as heir.
I mean, she didn't actually appoint her sister as heir. Her sister just succeeded her after she was overthrown.
Okay, I thought it was her
So, yeah.
decision.
No, I mean, we don't know her decision. Maybe it was her decision. We just know that Boran came to the throne after
Interesting.
this Rostam, son of Farouk, came to the throne. So, 4 or 5, and yeah. I'm thinking a 4 at this point. I can't really see the little jump to get her up to a 5.
Yeah, me
unless
neither.
you can suggest anything that comes to
I
mind.
agree with you, it should be a 4.
Okay. So with a 4 and a 4, she gets an 8 out of 20 for shock factor. Our next category is Erin Shine. How good was she for the Empire in general and Iran in particular? So, the Empire before and after her is, on a map, basically the same. That we know of, she doesn't reconquer these splinter kingdoms. She's mostly just busy consolidating the core of the Empire. And she tries to keep everything under control and keep everything stable. She does that with the coinage, trying to make sure everybody is calm and they understand how things are run right now. On the downside, she does refuse the marriage. We can definitely say that the marriage would have sidelined her and reduced her own power, but would it have been good for the Empire? It's unclear, because it definitely would have stabilized things because, well, Rostam wouldn't have marched on Ctesiphon. Simple as. But would maybe a different noble have done this? I mean, on the bright side for the marriage plan, the idea is that this is kind of the only army that's left with a powerful general. So that would have stabilized things definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe somebody else would have just split off of the empire and, financed a different king and just had her assassinated. We don't know. So it depends how good you consider that to have potentially been. And then the negative side is that, well, she is overthrown by Rostam, who manages to sort of take Ctesiphon, march an army there. I assume the people of Ctesiphon are unhappy with that. And yeah, I think that's all that we can say about her reign. So yeah, it's hard to tell, because the problem is the empire is so badly off that it's hard to tell if it's worse off now or if it's just, it was always just this bad and she did her best, honestly, and it's a wonder it didn't get any worse.
Yeah. Tough choice, because there's no way around the fact that anybody would do badly at this time.
Yeah, exactly. It's just,
Was
she
this
clearly
did this make things much
but,
worse, or did this just kind of go the way that it would have gone?
I'm feeling a bit pessimistic on this end because
I don't think she made things
yes, she
better.
tried to stabilize things, but yeah, exactly. I think that she tried, but refusing the marriage was ultimately a poor
bad
choice for the empire. If she had married Photochromisd, then I think things would have been more stable and she might have at least bought herself more time to do things.
Yep.
So I'm flitting between a 3 and a 4. Honestly, I was looking at previous scores and Ardashir III got a 3. I think she matches. It's a sort of, she tried to do well, she's known as having ruled with justice, but ultimately she does get overthrown and does anger this noble family at a time when she really could have used the support.
Yep. And that led to further
more instability instead of
in
just lasting. Because, if she'd married him and ruled for 10 years, then, okay, crisis period is over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame she's not in charge anymore, but the empire will prosper.
Yep.
But now she angered his son, and, well, civil war continues.
We have gotten nothing. Yeah.
Are you matching with a 3?
I am, yes.
Okay, very good. So with a 3 and a 3, we get a 6 out of 20 for Aaron Shine. Our next category is Face of Faces. What do you think this woman looked like? And I'll just tell you that according to Al-Tabari, and I quote, she was one of the most beautiful of the women of the Persians. That's all we get. Pretty.
She was a queen, so I believe that.
And yeah, she has Khosrow's last crown, the sort of slightly flat one. Okay, so Sarah has finished their drawing. Let me pick it up and I'll describe it to you all. Oh, damn. Okay, that's an intense one.
Yep.
That's a very good drawing.
She gave me intense vibes.
Really intense. That's entirely fair, yes. Damn. All right, so what we have here is Azarmidokht. She is wearing her father's crown with wings above, a half moon and a star within it. This lower crown than usual. She has big loopy earrings and necklaces and bracelets all round. But the most notable thing about her is that she's holding her hand up to her right eye and looking shocked with the other, as blood pools between her fingers down upon her dress, as she is blinded and overthrown and is still looking very, very intense and will cut you. But, yeah.
This family just gets
intense,
intense portraits.
That's fair. I mean, they deserve them. Why not? So that's brilliant. Yeah, Sarah, that's very cool. If any of you want to see this gorgeous drawing, please go to the episode notes in the description, our Discord if you're a patron, or on our website, go to Sarah's Portrait Gallery. Now, Sarah, let me show you what she actually looked like, and this is one of her non-beard coins. So, behold.
There's so much going on. So I have
a lot going
a
on,
double frame, like a double round frame with moons and stars on like the cardinal directions. Except the north one, like the top one, is the moon and star of the crown, which I think is such a good
That's a nice touch.
design decision. It's a profile fairly stylized. So, like, you can only see, the very big eye with an eyebrow, big nose, big lips, a cheek, and an ear. Kind of like, this is a face.
Yes.
I guess some earrings below the ear. There's 3 dots. That's how it's.
That's what I'd say, yeah.
And then necklaces and decorations. I don't know if part of the clothing or part of, like, jewelry. The crown, as before mentioned, with the wings and everything. And I guess writing around.
Yeah, that is writing. I can't read it, but it presumably
there's moons
says
and stars, and
Azarmidokht,
there's
Queen of Queens.
yeah, and there's writing, and then there's the hair on the back, but you don't see that much of it. Just some curls blend into the letters. I like the style choices. I don't think it's the best portrait of someone.
No, definitely not.
But I like the style choices of the coin. I like the frame with the moons and stars, and yeah, that works really well.
Yeah, I think it's quite neat.
So that will get extra points, but the portrait itself gets less points because, similar to other coins we've seen,
a face.
it's like, it's a face. Could be anybody. Without a beard, right? So, like, that's,
Yeah, that's new. That's novel.
But we've also had other emperors without a beard because they were young.
Yeah. I mean, we've had Ardashir III without a beard recently.
Like, this is not that new to be like, oh, gasp. Like, it's, yeah.
No, I don't know.
I don't know if there's any significance or any signifiers to her status as a woman.
None that I can tell beside the beardlessness.
Other than maybe it says in, like, written form, is if it says queen and not king, but it might also just say king. I can't read it.
Yeah.
And again, being beardless, like, is not a new thing. We've had other emperors. Like, other
it's
coins
rare,
like that.
but we've had it before.
So, it's fine. Like, it's a coin. It's contemporary, so that's always an extra point from my side.
I'm thinking on the lines of a 4. That's my inspiration.
Yeah, I think I might go for a 3. I'm not that impressed.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So with a 4 and a 3, she gets a 1.8 out of 5 for Face of Faces.
Mm-hmm.
Our next category is lengthiness. How long do you think this woman reigned?
I don't think it was that long, sadly. But there was enough time for all of this planning to be going on.
Yes.
For the marriage proposal. For losing that battle in... Was it Ctesiphon? Or was it?
Ctesiphon.
Yes. I'm going to say... like... probably less than a year.
That's right. She ruled for a total of 8 months.
Yeah, it was between 6 months and a year, so yeah.
We're out of the year 630 because she rules from some point in 630 to some point in 631.
Okay.
It's only taken us 4 episodes, but we've gotten to a new year, Ariel.
We made it.
How long will it take us to get to 632?
I mean, I will repeat, better than the kings before her, so, like, still.
She is the longest ruling monarch since Ardashir III, which is saying something. She's even better than Kavad II, so we're not doing well, Sarah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
When will it end?
Well, in 2 episodes, exactly, Sarah. That's when it will end.
I guess.
It's very simple. Yeah. So take 8 months divided by 10 years, and you get a 0.067 out of 5 for lengthiness. Which brings us to the final score, which is a grand total of 27.3 out of 100, which places her just above Artaxerxes I and beneath Ardashir II. So, in a broadly good but not overly remarkable team, let's say. And a lot of hers was from Shocking, for example. But yeah, that leads us to the final question, which is to ask... Is she...
Excuse me?
Yes. Is she girl boss enough? Is she murderous enough? Is she intense enough to be a Shahanshah? Or is she just a Shahanah? Do you think she deserves it for all the, standing up for herself and being strong, independent woman who needs no man? Or is it just that she just didn't do enough for the empire to be worth it?
That's the thing, though, because... Right now, everything is so in flames that I'm like, I would probably forget all the kings that have come in this period, like all the kings that we've had in these years.
Yes, entirely fair. But do you think she has a special spark that gets her
Of course, I have a
past
soft
that
spot
hurdle?
for her, but that's also because like there's been 2 women so far in our entire podcast, so of
Yes.
course I'm going to remember them.
Yes.
So on one hand, you could take the a point of view of like, well, if a man had done what she did, like, would you consider him special? But also, it is an important truth to recognize that she is not a man, and that is very unusual. And what she did was incredibly out of the ordinary.
Mm-hmm. But would you remember, for example, comparing Musa Ghat the Shahanshah?
Yeah, because she
And,
started as a
comparing
slave.
her to the other woman.
Like,
That's pretty cool, yes. But yeah, do you think Azarmidokht can sort of compare to that? Or do you think that, no, she just didn't do enough? It's not...
well, she
Or do you
also
think that just for the very fact of being a woman and coming to the throne and trying to carve out her own path, that's worth it? That's enough to merit
they
recognition?
did not have the same cards dealt. Like, it's not the same period in history.
To be fair, Musa had no legitimacy.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
she
Musa
was
had like
the
nothing.
wife of somebody. She was a slave. She had worse cards dealt, I would argue.
Yep. That's fair.
And they both end up overthrown in the end.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, we don't have many other women to compare to, unfortunately, but yeah.
I don't think I can give it to her, even though I will remember that she exists.
Yes.
We can always review once we have all the decisions.
I mean, we have a lot of strong contenders for the round, Cyril. I was building that up now, so it'll be complicated to choose. But yeah, I think she is sort of grazing it. If she had lived longer, absolutely.
Yeah.
But with the fact that it was only 8 months and didn't do much,
I don't think we
I'm
can give it
inclined
to her.
Say,
Yeah.
yeah. So sorry, Azarmidokht, you are a Shah-Na. You can head off into the desert and meet Shapur V and tell him, "You're useless. How dare you give my hand off in marriage one more time." And that leads us to the end of our episode. Thank you all for listening. We hope you had fun with the second woman to rule Iran. Next time, we'll have the last woman to rule Iran. Hooray! So, next episode, we'll learn about Boran and see how she does. Do you think Boran manages to take it back from the brink? She's the penultimate episode. Do you think that she'll learn from her lesson of being queen and being deposed, and she'll fix everything? Do you think she'll just muddle along and Yazdegerd will do whatever? Or do you think that she will fail catastrophically?
Well, we have 2 episodes left, so my expectations are not high. Like, that's all I can tell you.
Fair enough. But yeah, then we'll find out next week how Boran does, and we're inching ever closer. In 2 weeks, it'll be Yazdegerd III. It will be the end. The end is in sight, Serial. And at last, we shall know who the best King of Kings is. But yeah, in the meantime, if you'd like to support us, there are many ways to do so. You can join our Patreon with our new patron, Talavan Cohen. And you can have a look at all the fun extra episodes we have. We have polls going on for new episodes that will be shown. And we might even release the pilot that we recorded so long ago, just for your general listening pleasure.
Oh, I'm scared to re-listen to
it. We'll see how bad we are. But yeah, if instead you'd rather not support us monetarily, that's fine, but we'd appreciate it if you could give us a review on your podcast app of choice so you can let other people know that we exist and that you enjoy this podcast. But yeah, I think that's all we have for today, so we hope you have a lovely week, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.